DeSanto Propane is 4 generations strong as a trustworthy, family-owned business with unmatched customer service. Go online at DeSantoPropane.com for more info or call toll-free at 1-800-752-4574 today. Since 1937, the difference has been DeSanto Propane.
Good afternoon. Welcome back to Against the Boards. I'm your host, Chamberlain Bauder, here for another episode talking lacrosse and hockey across upstate and western New York. Now, been a bit of a hiatus. Hi, everybody. We're back from the back of my car right now, actually, as we record this one. In the parking lot for our offices here at the Rochester Knighthawks, as about a month ago, I started the position as the Communications and Lacrosse Operations Coordinator for the Rochester Knighthawks. And so with that, been a little bit of a hiatus figuring out coverage and what I'm going to talk about on this show and how we're going to do everything with that, because I don't feel it's necessarily my place now as an employee of the team to talk to you about the team the same way that I did over years past, but I definitely still want this to be the place that you can come to find that information. So we will be looking at other potential hosts for that coming in the future. So stay tuned for that. But as of right now, this will be the last episode that I talk about the Knighthawks, other than just kind of giving you public relations updates and different things like that as the season goes on. But, of course, I will still be talking about the Rochester Americans. We'll do a full reset on the Amherst in a couple weeks once I've fully settled in here in Rochester, and then also am able to get that credential situation settled and to a bunch of games for the Amherst. So I feel like I can give you that inside information. But I was there last night. It was Carson Meyer's debut as a Rochester American. For those looking for that little hockey itch right now, he scored the first Amherst goal of the game. Unfortunately, it didn't come until the third period, and by that point in the game, it was kind of all for naught, unfortunately, for the Amherst, although they put the comeback on. But at the end of the day, when you're down by 3 going into the third, it is a high mountain to climb, and they got to 4, but unfortunately Belleville got to 6, and that's just the way the cookie crumbles there on that game. But like I said, not much to talk with Amherst right now. We will get into them more next week. The only other thing, while watching that game last night, I was there. As someone who watches a lot of Hobart hockey, you know what a good forecheck looks like. Belleville's forecheck was on point last night. They were just giving it to the Amherst. They did not let up on the puck. They didn't let up on the pressure, and the Amherst felt that. And that was how it was 3-0 at the end of 2 periods, and ultimately how they scored 6 in the long run of the game. Now, let's shift our conversation to the Rochester Knighthawks, who just played their first 2 preseason games last weekend in Brampton and Oakville, Ontario. Friday night, it was a 16-13 loss to the Calgary Roughnecks. Saturday, bouncing back with a 12-8 win over the Philadelphia Wings. Now, let's preface a whole lot of stuff about the preseason right now. First things first, you can check out the article, too, with the game recaps, and that you might hear a little bit of a reiteration of what I'm about to say there when it comes to this preseason stuff. But Zed Williams and Connor Fields both did not play. No need to play in this weekend. No need to put your 2 biggest kind of faces now for this team into harm's way. And that's exactly kind of the mindset that they went in with that. Dan Coates didn't play on Friday. Ian Lord didn't play on Friday. A bunch of just different spots where guys only played halves at a time. Brad McCulley only played on Friday. Kyle Waters only played on Friday. Tyler Biles and Tyler Halls went in on the second half on Friday and played the full game on Saturday. Rylan Reese played just the first half on Saturday. So it's kind of splashed all around, right, where those veteran guys are in terms of that. But ultimately, for the Knighthawks, they go into Friday, play 3 different goalies, and going into the fourth quarter, we're down by quite a bit and put together a 6-goal run to make it a 3-goal game. Ultimately, if there had been 3 more minutes in that lacrosse game, I think Rochester at least pulls even before Calgary might take another lead at the end. But the moment when it hit you that, oh, something could happen here, was with about 2 minutes left, and they were still down by too many at that point. And so it was just kind of like, oh, well, they'll make it close. And they did make it close ultimately, and a lot of that was thanks to Ryan Lanchberry. And he's someone that we definitely have to talk about as the true quarterback of this team. You know, we can all call Fieldsy the quarterback of this group as the MVP of the league, right? But if Fieldy's a quarterback, he's an option quarterback. And Ryan Lanchberry is the pocket passer because he can just put the ball on anyone's ear, and he has figured out who his shooters are and where they want it to receive the pass for it to be loaded in whatever shot they want. And it was, I mean, he had 7 assists in 2 games and he had 5 of them he had 5 of them on Saturday against the Philadelphia Wings. He looked so good. He looked like the best offensive player out there for the Knighthawks, just in terms of composure and control. But with that said, Thomas McConvey and Ryan Smith both looked absolutely fantastic as well. One of the benefits, so obviously Smitty, doesn't need the ball in his stick to succeed, and everyone knows that. And T-Mac has started to show that as well in his first 2 years of play. But the thing for T-Mac in this game was that he had the ability to be on ball more and didn't always take those chances going on ball. He finished with 8 points in the 2 games. He had 3 goals, 5 assists. Second most points of any Nighthawk forward in the 2 games. But the way he was finishing them was all off ball. All of his finishes, his goals, those 3 goals were all off ball. The one that sticks the most in the mind for me is a beautiful tic-tac-toe that I want to say it was Smitty to Lanch to T-Mac at the back door. And he's just soaring through the air and basically just hits it like he has a tennis racket in his hand or a badminton racket and bats the ball into the goal with his stick. It's amazing to see a guy with the size like that have the athleticism of a Graydon Hogg or a Connor Fields in that like smaller body at agility in the 6'2" and larger frames that, T-Mac has. And it's awesome to see. He is all of the number 1 overall pick that the Nighthawks took him with. 100%, in my mind at least. Now, of course, I am biased now, right? But no, nonetheless, overall, when it comes to that Friday into Saturday shift, tough day on Friday, but they bounced it back on Saturday. Only allowed 3 goals from Philadelphia in the first half of Saturday's game. I think that was a major, major takeaway. And then Hartley comes in that second half and has the unfortunate fact of having to go against all of the hot shooters from the first half. A couple went in early, but then he kind of got onto his horse and, again, only allowed 5 goals in that second half anyways. So at the end of the day, pretty great day from both goalies in my mind on Saturday. Hope for more out of the whole party on Friday, but I think that was the first time the team had been back on a floor against someone in another jersey all season, right? Like the last time that they were wearing those shirts, they didn't know if we were going to have a team this year in Vancouver. Like they were in Vancouver having conversations about whether or not they were coming back next year. So ultimately, the other thing with that game that we got to talk about, both games actually, is Nathan Kapp, the face-off specialist from Jacksonville University. Of course, if you don't know about Jacksonville, John Galloway has been the coach of Jacksonville University since, I want to say 2018. It might have been 2016. It's been a while now. And Nathan Kapp, played 5 years under JG at Jacksonville. He had a tough task on Friday. Let me tell you what, he had to take on Justin Anasio, who, when you go and dive into the stats out of last season, he ranks 6th amongst all faceoff specialists, and that has both Baptiste and TD Erlin ahead of him, who took a fraction of the faceoffs that Anasio did last season for Calgary. Of course, Field fans will know that Justin Anasio was the guy who replaced Nick Rowlett for the Carolina Chaos this year. Pretty interesting weekend, actually, because on Friday, it was Justin Anasio that Cap had to go against. He won 11 faceoffs of, I believe, 33, maybe 31. And then on Saturday, he went against Nick Rowlett for the Philadelphia Wings. And we... I did not keep a stat sheet number from our faceoffs there. I do know that it was a positive, over 50% win percentage from Capper at the dot. One of the things immediately from me that I saw with him, 2 things. One, he's very teachable in the sense that he was sitting with Tyler Halls on Saturday after having the game on Friday, just working on when to go, where to watch. That's one of the biggest shifts for college to pro, is you're shifting from watching the ball and watching your guy to watching the referee to see when his neck muscles tense up to blow the whistle. Like, that's what you're going on. So it's a new thing in the NLL to learn that, and it's so loud that you just have to see the motion and the action occur. But the other thing that was really awesome with him, to me, watching, is his awareness to use the other players on the field to get that ball out to, whether that's pops to open turf or just when he gets into a scrum. He is very aware that he does not need to be the one to win the faceoff. He has 4 other guys on the floor that he can rake the ball over to and let them get a GB and scoop up the possession and start it. They were the Knighthawks in general over the whole weekend, when they won faceoffs, it was by committee. And it shows when you look at guys like a Matt Gilray or like a Jake Pacino, or a Chad Tutton, why they're out there in those settings. And I can't wait for Taylor Jensen to be back out there in preseason, or on the floor when it's back in the States. But like, you think about all of the guys that have taken faceoffs in the NLL that will go out there and be the wings, essentially, for the faceoff sets for the Knighthawks. They should be able to get a lot of GBs. Now, the thing that'll be interesting about it for, fans at home is you won't see one guy, except for Matt Gilray, you won't see one guy necessarily pop off the stat line with all of those ground balls, because they have 4 or 5 guys that are getting an outrageous number for having that many guys on your team getting them. But compared to, maybe Mitch DeSnew for Philadelphia this year, he's going to have, inflated numbers because he's the guy that's going to go to the ball all the time for them, right? But yeah, it's definitely exciting at the face-off dot, without a shadow of a doubt. And then offensively, we just got to talk about the absolute monsters, I think is the new name for this offense. Zed, Smitty, Waters, McConvey, all giants. And then you splash in Hogg, Fields, Lanchbury, and McCulley also added into that group of them too. I almost forget sometimes that he's obviously lumped into that large group, right? And being a kind of a protector out there. This offense is both, I think, outrageously different and exactly the same as it was last year. I think that can only get better based on the additions that they've made. But I also just think that everyone needs to remember that Ryan Smith and Ryan Lanchbury are still in the first 5 years of their careers. Like, T-Mac's going into year 3. This offense is so young. There's so much room still to grow. So I am more than excited to see how that one goes. My camera's blinking at me that it's about to die. We have reached almost the 15-minute mark here, a nice short one from the back of my car. We will hopefully have more of a system in place once we kind of get to the season for these episodes. And of course, I will keep you updated on our Knighthawks coverage situation. But for myself, from Against the Boards, big thanks to my producer, Paul Russo, for getting us up and running, and we'll see you next time.